Welcome to the wonderful world of Ghost Horse Hollow. I'm your host, Severn Williamson, and this is My Family Book Nook. My Family Book Nook podcast is brought to you by the Owsley County Public Library in Boonville, Kentucky, and by Jackson Energy, a Touchstone Energy cooperative, and by Ghost Horse Gifts, featuring the fine intaglio jewelry and gemstone sculpture of artisan Jack Williamson, on the web at www.etsy.com/shop/ghosthorse-gifts. My Family Book Nook features the saga of the MacKennon homesteaders 100 years in the future in the Appalachian wilderness. Listeners may wish to follow along in the fairy lore of Ghost Horse Hollow, available on Amazon Books and Kindle Readers, starting with Book 1, Turn of the Blade. My Family Book Nook also shares stories, myths, and legends from around the globe in support of world literacy, conservation, and cultural exchange. And now for our ongoing adventure from the fairy lore of Ghost Horse Hollow. We left off in Ghost Horse Hollow with Panther MacKennon has escaped from the dead oak tree. Chapter 8. The Snakeskin Stairs. Far down a steep gully west of the dead oak tree, MacKennon's oldest daughter fought to remain conscious. She slumped over her horse's mane and buried her hands in Elestial's thick hair in an effort to remain seated. Both her legs were starting to lose their ability to bend at the knee. Panther kicked loose of her brass stirrups, for skull vein tended to stiffen the extremities. She did not want to get entangled in a leather strap and risk being dragged down a rocky trail behind her mare. The girl knew she was lost. Elestial's Opal moon knew it too. The horse widened her pale blue eyes and pricked her ears forward. Something was rustling in the blackberry brambles up ahead. It was a small brown wren. The bird quickly dipped and fluttered near the cremello's cheek. The disturbance, under the circumstances, was just enough to spook even the steadiest of mounts. The mare heaved sideways, tossing her weak rider to the ground. A muscle spasm released Panther's strong fingers from their hold. The poison was working its way through each of her nerve endings and up her spine. Panther could feel her heart skip a beat. The girl slid several feet down the ravine, over smooth, mossy rocks, and rolled through a patch of wet leaves. Suddenly, Panther was surrounded by cool air as she tumbled over the edge of a small waterfall. It was but a 6-foot drop into a pool of shivering bubbles, but Panther's cloudy mind perceived the event as if she were falling onto solid ice. The teenager moaned in pain and cried out for her mare. Elestial's Opal moon, however, went off in the opposite direction to search for her young mistress. Her 4 on-shed hooves could be heard clattering up what sounded like a stone staircase. Panther flinched. She was not lost after all. Horse and rider had found the ancient ruins the fairies called Caldroon Away, or the Snakeskin Stairs. The MacKennons believed the stairs to be remnants of a series of fire towers that had been built by men long, long ago. Spring floods, crashing trees, and twisting vines had broken and smashed the old concrete forms. The misshapen blocks lay like tombstones beneath overhanging hemlocks, pin oaks, and silver maples. The stairs were a favorite haunt for the moonlight fairies, who treasured decay and shady nooks. An occasional section of the old steps remained intact, covered with patches of lichen and creeping red sedum. The way led upward out of the muddy gully to a crumbling brick platform high above. Here a massive electric tower had once loomed over the landscape. Its useless cold wires and snapped twisted cables mingled with the forest foliage. foliage. Muscadine vines and electrical lines blended together like poisonous sea snakes floating in watery branches, eager to make some perilous connection. Panther knew that the ruins were inhabited solely by moss trolls, who were strange, unpredictable creatures of slime and slither. They were once cave trolls, but living for countless centuries in the hidden ledges of moist gullies, had turned their hair dark green. Their fingers and toes were long and flexible. Adept at probing under wet stones, the average moss troll ate mostly crawdads and beetles. The Snakeskin Stairs, however, were visited in the hot summer months by venomous copperheads, who enjoyed the pleasant shade and dampness of the gully. The moss trolls considered flaky snakeskin to be a delicacy. They cooked the shed skins up with turnips, stolen from Farmer MacKennon's fields. Over time, the ruined steps became known as the Snakeskin Stairs. The 16-year-old knew that a courageous possum, likely a close relative of the one-eyed Blinky Joe, had established a profitable trade route up the stairs. The possum provided the moss trolls with vegetables and roots in exchange for crawdads. The clever trader then sold the crawdads to the raccoons, Miss Wish and her brother Washy, the owners of the Wish Wash Cafe. The cafe was a 5-star and 4-paw restaurant that served savory suppers, mostly to dogs, cats, and other raccoons. The Starlight Fairies, on the other hand, abhorred the scent of fried snakeskin and did their utmost to avoid this part of the forest. Panther now had her bearings, but she had never visited the treacherous steps before. She turned a sharp, fairy-like ear to the sounds around her. The cold running water reminded Panther of the moss troll's language. Their words seemed to gurgle and sputter and splash. Very few fairies knew how to pronounce the strange speech. Panther had encountered the mossy sounds while studying with the Fairy Queen's royal interpreter, Lord Sachel Clanadon. He had insisted that the girl familiarize herself with all the languages of the Fairyland's inhabitants. The royal interpreter had warned Panther that her ability to master many forms of communication might save her own skin one day. The girl had always wondered what Lord Clanadon had meant by this. It seemed she would soon find out. Panther shivered violently, struggling to reach the edge of the mountain pool. She pressed against the uneven, slippery bank, but her fingers were too numb to grasp the clumps of dead grass along the edge. She hoped that her elbows and forearms would be strong enough to pull her weight out of the freezing water. Hypothermia was setting in. Panther forced herself to remain calm. Perhaps if she could spot some fresh cat root nearby, she would be able to chew enough of the plant to counteract Tormac's poison. Hannah MacKennon had taught her daughter that cat root grew wild in shady, damp ravines. It was almost impossible to find this time of year, but Panther could recognize the withered leaves of this warm-weather plant. Pressing her legs together, she wormed her way out of the pool with a great effort that tore her shoulder muscles. Panther pinned her ribcage between 2 rocks beyond the water's edge. Her legs helplessly continued to dangle in the pool without immediate assistance. The girl realized she would soon perish, suspended between the opposing elements of freezing water and slippery mud. "Hello, my muddling budling," came a shrill, gurgling voice. Panther raised her head stiffly. A pudgy moss troll with a long, warty green nose was peering down at her. The troll's dark eyes were hidden beneath a wide-brimmed straw hat that was undoubtedly a gift from the industrious possum trader. The girl recognized the hat as her mother's favorite summer bonnet. Lady Hannah loved to wear that hat while weeding her extensive herb garden. "What have we here? A frozen budling?" the troll continued, her gray-green hair wriggling out from beneath the stolen hat. Panther recalled that moss trolls commonly referred to human children as budlings, especially when they were planning to eat them. The slimy creature was quite fond of sprouts, young shoots, and fresh meat. "Umbro, I found me a clean-skinned farm child," shouted the female troll. "Bring my hunting bag down to our favorite pool. Get the bag with the wide mesh. I'll be down directly, Gooshy. How much you got there? You knows I likes 'em as fat as an old raccoon." The troll's male companion hollered down from above the falls. "Not much meat on it, Umbro, but a nice, greasy skin." The one called Gooshy replied with disappointment. Panther tried to propel her half-frozen body back into the swirling waters. It was better to risk hypothermia than to become dinner for 2 hungry trolls. The young teen had never considered her skin to be greasy, but then she had never considered her appearance from a troll's point of view. "Now, don't be wiggling away so soon, my muddlin' buddlin'," Gooshy warned. The she-troll quivered with anticipation. She licked her chin with her brown, bumpy tongue and rattled a pouch of finger bones at her hips. Panther felt herself being lifted hastily out of the cold water by her belt. The girl looked down to see the troll's long toes curving over knobby roots and twigs in order to steady her hefty green bulk. Gooshy's rough fingers felt along the teenager's rigid arms until the rude explorer reached the tiny entry point of Tormac's poisoned dart. The she-troll grumbled and screeched back up to her companion, whose blubbery form was oozing out of a narrow cleft in the overhanging rocks. "This here hide's spoiled. Umbro, fetch me some cat root, and be quick about it. This skin won't last till the break of day, even if we don't purify its blood." Umbro gurgled and then squeezed himself back into the rocky cleft. Gooshy took the opportunity to poke each of Panther's limbs for signs of any blemishes or bruises. "If pickings weren't so poor this time o' the year, I'd put you back in this here water, but I suppose you'll make a fair stew. We'll need plenty of them lowland turnips to give you a sweet taste." The troll seemed satisfied with her hasty inspection. Gooshy clutched her victim to her squishy waist and climbed the side of the tumbling cascade with remarkable agility. Umbro met his mate at the mouth of their foul cave. In one hand he carried a net, and in another he toted a hairy root. "Wash up, you old dirty tooth bag," Gooshy commanded, "and give me some of that there root." Umbro dutifully handed over the healing plant, and partly slithered, partly rolled, like a jellyfish, down to the falls to clean himself before such a special meal. He left the wide mesh net with Gooshy, who was busy chewing a chunk of the bitter plant. Panther's unpleasant hostess proceeded to spit dark purple juice on the girl's shoulder. The troll also offered Panther a piece of the medicine for her to eat. Panther accepted the cat root without protest, knowing that it offered her salvation from Tormac's treachery. As Goosey continued to rub the juices of the antidote over the girl's wound, the troll caught sight of Panther's tattered and stained raiment. The cloak of wheels, once a spinning vortex of stellar protection, was now a muddy rag about Panther's stiff throat and torso. The damp cloth was interfering with the troll's food preparations. "Where did you get this old thing, budling? I'll just slip it right off. It won't do to boil it down. I'm known for my good broth, not to mention my greasy globs, up and down these old stairs. This rag will give my stew a terrible taste. Hold still, you wiggle-waggle, or I'll wrap you up in this here net." Gooshy grabbed at Panther's struggling form and tugged the ruined cloak over the girl's head in frustration. There was no need to cut the satin ties with a black troll blade, for the magic of the priceless garment had long since vanished into the night air. The wild cat root was having an immediate effect in restoring young Panther's health. The medicine was very potent, giving Panther a daring, reckless power to resist the green cook. Gooshy, not to be outdone by a juicy morsel, looped Panther's belt over an iron hook that was wedged in the crevice of the cave's entrance. Desperate, the girl gave her captor a mighty kick in the belly. "Ooh, that root was too strong," cried Gooshy, "but I'll fix you. Try to jump off of that." The she-troll pointed to her strong metal hook. I'll be back in a wee bit. Ye look pale, my budling, but the poison's almost out of your precious hide. I'll have it off ye soon enough. Now where did Umbro put my skillet?" The troll moved further back into the cave, searching for her missing frying pan. Gooshy could barely be seen lighting the wick in the bowl of congealed fat and placing the smoking flame on a ledge. Panther, dangling from the wicket hook, peered around the moss troll's queer, rocky house. Thank you for listening to my Family Book Nook podcast. Subscribe to our blog at myfamilybooknook.blogspot.com and follow us on Facebook, Pinterest, and YouTube at Ghost Horse Hollow and Ghost Horse Gift Gallery. To advertise with my Family Book Nook, contact Podbean's Pod Ads program for more information. Join us each Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. Eastern Time USA for another episode in the exciting saga of the MacKennon homesteaders, as well as stories from around the globe. Podbean.com podcasts are available through a convenient app on your PC, tablet, or cell phone. Listen anytime. We appreciate your sharing my Family Book Nook episodes with your friends and family on social media. Watch it grow. Special thanks to the lovely Price Sisters on the web at thepricesisters.com for our closing music. Follow me on Instagram _ghost_horse. This is Anne Severn Williamson, and it's been a pleasure